The bell above the coffee shop door jingled at exactly 7:09 a.m. on that Thursday morning. I remember the time because I'd glanced at my phone, calculating whether I had enough minutes to grab my usual black drip before heading to the sawmill. 16 years of marriage, and I thought I knew every corner of my wife's schedule. Turns out I didn't know a thing. The Spokane morning carried that bite of early autumn, the kind that makes you grateful for hot coffee and warm hands. I shuffled toward the counter, already fishing for my wallet, when something made me look up. Back table, window seat. Her favorite spot whenever we came here together on Sunday mornings. Sophia sat there with her legs crossed, wearing that cream blouse I'd complimented last week. Across from her, leaning in like they were sharing nuclear launch codes, was Marcus Ellis. Her team leader. The guy she'd mentioned maybe 3 times in passing, always with that breezy, "Oh, he's just work stuff" dismissal. His hand was on hers. Not accidental. Not passing something. Just resting there, his thumb making slow circles on her wrist. I stood frozen in the middle of the coffee shop like some idiot, my work boots tracking sawdust on their clean floors. An hour ago, 60 minutes, she'd kissed me goodbye in our kitchen, mumbling something about working from home today. Said she needed to catch up on quarterly reports. I'd believed her because why wouldn't I? We'd been together since we were 27. I'd never once questioned where she was or who she was with. The barista called out, "Sophia, that's your usual, right? The double latte?" Sophia's head turned. Her smile, that smile I thought belonged to me, was still plastered on her face when her eyes found mine. The color drained from her cheeks like someone had pulled a plug. Ray. She said my name like a prayer and a curse combined. Ellis yanked his hand back so fast he knocked over the salt shaker. "Oh, hey man, morning." Morning. Like we were buddies running into each other at the gym. I walked toward them. Each step felt like I was moving through wet concrete. Papers were scattered across the table between them. Supposed work documents that now scattered to reveal doodled hearts in the margins. Little notes in her handwriting. Things like, "Can't wait," and "Miss you already." My hands were shaking. I'd held chainsaws steadier than this. "Home office," I said, and my voice came out low and rough. "That's what you told me. Home office day. Catching up on reports." "Ray, it's not. This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" I picked up one of the papers. A heart with their initials, like something a teenage girl would draw during study hall. "Because it looks like my wife is sitting in a coffee shop with another man's hands all over her, while our joint account pays for his morning caffeine fix." Ellis started to stand. "Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Sit down." He sat. Give him credit, or maybe just acknowledge what a coward he was. He recognized the look in my eyes. 16 years of hauling timber, running crews, dealing with equipment that could kill you if you got careless. I'd learned to project authority. Right now, I was projecting something closer to controlled rage. "Ray, please." Sophia reached for me. "It's just a quick meeting. We were discussing the quarterly projections. With hearts on your reports and your legs tangled with his under the table." I crumpled the paper in my fist. "How long?" "What?" "How long?" Ellis grabbed his jacket. "I should go." "Yeah," I said. "You should. Run back to whatever hole you crawled out of. But know this. If I see you within 100 feet of my wife again, we're going to have a very different conversation. One where I don't keep my hands in my pockets." He was gone before I finished the sentence. The door chimed behind him like a timer going off. Sophia sat there, mascara already starting to smear. "Ray, I'm so sorry. I never meant for you to find out like this." "Find out what exactly? That you've been lying to me? That you've been sneaking around with that pencil pusher while I'm breaking my back at the mill to pay for your team lunches and your work dinners? While I'm putting in overtime so we can finally redo the kitchen? It's not like that. We're friends." It got complicated. Complicated. I laughed, and it was an ugly sound. Sophia, I'm done. I'm done with the lies, done with the excuses, done with whatever story you're about to spin. Lawyer's papers hit your desk by end of week. Don't bother coming home. Ray, please, can we just talk about this? Ellie, don't. My voice cracked on that one word. Don't you dare use our daughter as a bargaining chip. You should have thought about her before you decided our marriage wasn't worth keeping. I turned and walked out. The bell jingled again. Behind me, I heard her start to cry. I didn't look back. The sawmill went by in a blur that day. I called in, told my supervisor I had a family emergency. He didn't ask questions. Probably heard something in my voice that made him decide not to push. I drove home instead. Our modest bungalow on Spokane's north side, the one we'd bought together 12 years ago. The azaleas out front that Sophia had planted, the fence I'd repaired last summer, the porch swing where we used to sit on summer evenings watching fireflies. All of it felt contaminated now. Inside, I went straight to her office. The small spare bedroom she'd converted into her workspace when she started working from home more often. Now I understood why she'd been so insistent on having a space with a door that locked. Her planner sat open on the desk. I started flipping through it. The evidence was everywhere. Coffee with M, penciled in for mornings when she'd told me she was working. Team lunch. On days when I now realize she was probably at some restaurant, holding hands across a table, laughing at jokes that weren't mine. 6 months. The pattern went back 6 months. I sat down heavily in her chair, my head spinning. Half a year of lies. Half a year of her kissing me goodbye and then driving straight to him. Half a year of I love you at night while she was planning her next rendezvous. Our shared photo app was still synced to her desktop. I started scrolling through the recently deleted folder, the stuff she thought was gone but the cloud had helpfully preserved. There they were. Sophia and Marcus at Riverfront Park, her head resting on his shoulder. A selfie of them at what looked like a wine bar, her cheeks flushed, his arm wrapped around her waist. Picture after picture, date after date, all happening while I thought she was at work or running errands or doing any of the 1,000 normal things married people do. Then I found the Notes app, her private journal. The first entry was dated 6 months ago. Met someone today. M. He actually listens to me. Asked about my day, my thoughts, my dreams. When's the last time Ray did that? He's always so tired from work. I feel like a piece of furniture in my own house. I read through entry after entry. Her complaints about me. Too predictable, too boring, too focused on providing instead of connecting. Her excitement about Ellis. So charming, so attentive, so different. I know it's wrong, one entry read, but I finally feel alive. Is that so terrible? To want to feel like a woman again instead of just somebody's wife and somebody's mother? Yeah, Sophia, it is terrible. Because you made vows. Because we have a daughter. Because I spent 16 years building a life with you while you were apparently just waiting for something better to come along. I copied everything to a flash drive. Screenshots, photos, journal entries. In Washington State, we're a community property jurisdiction. Everything we own gets split 50-50 unless I can prove dissipation. Her spending our money on this affair. And I intended to prove exactly that. Picking up Ellie from school that afternoon was the hardest thing I've ever done. She bounced into the truck with that 14-year-old energy, backpack slung over one shoulder, already chattering about her day before she even got the seatbelt clicked. Dad, you won't believe what happened in bio today. We got to dissect a frog, and Jenny actually screamed so loud that... She stopped, looking at me. Dad? You okay? Yeah, sweetheart. Just tired. Where's Mom? I thought she was working from home today. She said she'd pick me up. The lie came easier than I expected. She got called into the office last minute. Some emergency with a client. Oh. Ellie pulled out her phone, started scrolling. She's been so busy lately. Did you see her new necklace? The one with the little diamond? She said it was a gift from work for hitting some sales target. A gift from work? I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Yeah, I saw it. It's really pretty. She never wears it at home, though. Says she doesn't want to lose it. Ellie shrugged. Adults are weird about jewelry. Adults are weird about a lot of things, kid. Like lying to your face while you're trying to figure out algebra. Hey, Elle. I need to talk to you about something, but not today, okay? There might be some changes coming up. Family stuff. But I want you to know that whatever happens, I love you. That's never going to change. She looked at me with those sharp eyes. My eyes, everyone said, though she had her mother's smile. Is everything okay with you and Mom? We'll talk about it soon, I promise. Right now, let's just go home and order pizza. How's that sound? With extra pepperoni? All the pepperoni you want. She grinned, and for a second, the weight on my chest lifted. Whatever happened next, I had to protect her from the worst of it. She didn't deserve to have her world shattered because her mother couldn't keep her promises. Day 2. Sophia hadn't come home. I'd changed the locks the night before. Perfectly legal since the house was in my name, inherited from my grandfather before we even met. She'd sent 17 texts and left 6 voicemails, each one progressively more desperate. Ray, please, we need to talk about this like adults. Ray, I'm staying at my sister's. This is ridiculous. Let me come home. Ray, you can't just shut me out. I'm still your wife. I deleted them all without responding. Instead, I drove by the coffee shop on my way to work. Ellis's BMW was in the lot. No sign of Sophia's Camry, but her favorite table was empty. A reserved sign propped against the napkin holder. I photographed everything. Timestamp, location, evidence that this wasn't a one-time thing. At the mill, my buddy Dave cornered me during the morning break. You look like someone ran over your dog, he said, offering me a cigarette. I'd quit 3 years ago, but I took it anyway. What's going on? Sophia's been stepping out on me. Dave's face went through about 6 expressions in 2 seconds. You're joking. Found her with him yesterday, at the coffee shop on Monroe, holding hands, little love notes, the whole 9 yards. Aw, man, that's rough. He shook his head, grinding his cigarette under his boot. You need a PI? My cousin Carla does that kind of work. Divorce cases, insurance fraud, stuff like that. She's sharp, doesn't miss much. How good is she? Good enough to catch a guy's wife with 3 boyfriends in different zip codes. He ended up with the house, the cars, and full custody. I took Carla's number. That night, after Ellie went to bed, I sat in my truck in the driveway and made the call. Carla Voss answered on the second ring. Her voice was gravel and cigarettes. No nonsense in a way that immediately put me at ease. This is Carla. Dave Brennan gave me your number. Said you do investigative work? Dave's solid. What's your situation? I told her. The coffee shop, the photos, the journal entries. By the time I finished, she was already typing on a keyboard. Marcus Ellis, she said. Works at Westbrook Financial, right? Team leader position? That's him. I can start surveillance tomorrow. My rate is $250 a day plus expenses. But I'll tell you up front, if there's a paper trail, I'll find it. If there are other women, I'll find them too. These corporate types always have a pattern. Do it. One more thing. Your wife works at the same firm. I've got a contact in HR there. Nothing shady, just someone who owes me a favor. Want me to put out feelers? See if there's been any noise about inappropriate behavior? I thought about it for exactly half a second. Yeah, do that too. You'll hear from me by end of week. Day 4. The PI had only been working for 48 hours, but she'd already struck gold. Ellis's social media is wide open, Carla said over the phone. Public posts, nothing locked down. He's been tagging your wife and stuff for months. Office vibes with my favorite team. Power lunch with the best accountant I know. That kind of garbage. She's liked and commented on every single one. Anything more direct? Not publicly, but I found something else. His ex-girlfriend, woman named Whitney Tate, left a pretty detailed review on one of those Rate Your Ex websites. Says he's got a habit of going after married women at work. Called him a serial homewrecker. My blood ran cold. How many? At least 3 that I can confirm. All married, all at companies where he worked. One of them ended up divorcing her husband. Another got transferred to a different department after HR stepped in. The third just moved to another state. So he's a predator. He's a pattern. And patterns play really well in family court. That night, I found Sophia's hidden diary. Not the digital one. An actual leather-bound journal tucked behind the false bottom of her nightstand drawer. The same nightstand where she kept her reading glasses and hand cream and all the mundane items of a shared life. I sat on our bed, my bed now, I supposed, and started reading. The entries started almost a year ago, before she'd even met Ellis. I don't know what's wrong with me. Ray is a good man. He works hard, he loves Ellie, he's never raised a hand or even his voice. But I look at him across the dinner table and I feel nothing. Is this what the rest of my life looks like? Pot roast on Sundays and the same routine on Saturdays and then we die? The entries got worse as time went on. Her boredom. Her resentment. Her conviction that she deserved more than the life we'd built together. Then Ellis entered the picture. M asked me to lunch today. Just the 2 of us. I know I shouldn't, but he looks at me like I'm actually interesting. When's the last time Ray looked at me like that? We kissed today, in the parking garage after work. I feel sick and alive at the same time. This is wrong. I know it's wrong, but I can't stop. M booked a room for next Tuesday. Says he wants to give me the birthday experience I deserve, since Ray just got me a gift card to the garden center. I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to do it. Page after page of her betrayal, documented in her own handwriting. The last entry was dated 3 days before I found them in the coffee shop. I think I love him. I think I'm going to leave Ray. M says we can be together once everything settles down. He says his divorce was the best thing that ever happened to him, and mine will be too. We just have to be careful until Ellie graduates. Kids are resilient. She'll understand eventually. I closed the journal and sat there in the dark for a long time. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was planning to leave me. Had been planning it for months. And the only reason she hadn't pulled the trigger yet was because she wanted to wait until Ellie was older. Not out of concern for our daughter, but out of convenience for herself. The next morning, I filed for divorce. Week 2 hit like a freight train. Sophia showed up at the sawmill, which she'd never done once in 16 years of marriage. She was standing by my truck when I came out for lunch, mascara streaked, hair unwashed, looking like she hadn't slept in days. We need to talk, she said. I've got nothing to say to you. Ray, please, I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But we can work through this. Couples survive affairs all the time. We could go to counseling. Counseling? I laughed, and it wasn't a nice sound. You want counseling? You were planning to leave me, Sophia. I read your journal. You were going to wait until Ellie graduated and then walk out the door without looking back. The only mistake you made was getting caught before your exit strategy was ready. Her face crumpled. That's not fair. I was confused. Ellis was telling me things, making you feel special, making you feel alive. Yeah, I read that part too. Here's the thing though. I've been making you feel provided for, making you feel secure, making sure our daughter had braces and soccer camp and a roof over her head. But I guess that doesn't count because it's boring, right? Because it's predictable? You don't understand what it's like to be married to someone who takes you for granted? I stepped closer and she flinched. I worked 60-hour weeks so you could have your home office and your lunch breaks and your team-building exercises. I missed Ellie's school plays because I was picking up overtime so we could pay off the credit cards you maxed out on business clothes. And the whole time, you were complaining to your diary about how I didn't look at you the right way? Ray, we're done, Sophia. The papers are filed. You'll be hearing from my attorney. I got in my truck and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I watched her sink down in the parking lot, sobbing. I felt nothing. That night, I sat down with Ellie. She'd been asking questions for days. Why wasn't Mom coming home? Why were Dad's eyes always red? Why did the house feel like someone had died? I couldn't shield her anymore. She deserved the truth, or at least as much of it as a 14-year-old could handle. Your mom and I are getting divorced, I said. Ellie's face went blank. Not surprised exactly. More like she'd been expecting the blow and was bracing for impact. Because of that guy, she said quietly. The one from her work. I stared at her. How did you know? I found texts on her phone, last month when she left it on the kitchen counter. Ellie's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. I didn't say anything because I thought maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it was a work thing. But then she started acting weird, hiding her phone, taking calls in the garage, that new necklace she never wore around you. Ellie, I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have had to carry that. Did she love him? More than us? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. I don't know what your mom feels, I said carefully. But I know this. None of this is your fault. Not one single piece of it. And no matter what happens between me and her, you're my daughter. That's never going to change. Ellie nodded slowly. Then she leaned into me, and I held her while she cried. Not the dramatic sobs her mother had put on in the parking lot, but quiet tears. The kind that come from a kid realizing her parents are just people who screw things up sometimes. Month 1 bled into month 2. Carla kept digging, and what she found painted an uglier picture than I'd imagined. Ellis wasn't just a serial cheater. He was a con artist in a tailored suit. 3 prior affairs with married women, all of them ending the same way. He'd shower them with attention until they left their husbands, then ghost them once the challenge was gone. Whitney Tate, his ex, agreed to talk to me over the phone. He gets off on the conquest, she said, her voice bitter. The thrill of stealing someone else's wife. Once you're actually available, you're worthless to him. Did he ever promise you anything? A future together? Oh, honey, he promised me the moon. Said his divorce was almost finalized, said we'd get a place together, said he'd never felt this way about anyone. Then the day my husband signed the papers, Marcus stopped returning my calls. Found out later he'd already moved on to the next target. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, be smart. Whatever he's promising your wife right now, it's all smoke. The second she's actually available, he'll drop her like yesterday's news. I thanked her and hung up, wondering if Sophia had any idea what she'd thrown her marriage away for. Meanwhile, the divorce mediation was turning into a bloodbath. Sophia's attorney, some slick downtown type in a $3,000 suit, was pushing for 50-50 on everything. The house, the savings, the retirement accounts. Standard community property split. My attorney, a straight-shooting woman named Patricia Reeves, had other ideas. Your wife spent marital funds on this affair, she said during our prep meeting. Hotel rooms, restaurant bills, gifts for her boyfriend. All of it came out of your joint accounts. Under Washington law, that's dissipation of marital assets. We can argue for an unequal division. How unequal? Depends on the judge. But with what you've gathered, the journal, the receipts, the PI's report, I'd say we have a strong case for 60-40 in your favor. Maybe better if we can prove the affair affected your daughter's well-being. It has, I said. She's in therapy now, started having nightmares. Her grades dropped. Patricia nodded, making a note. I'll need documentation from the therapist. With consent, obviously. Week 6 brought an unexpected ally. I was grabbing lunch at a deli near the courthouse when a woman approached my table. Mid-30s, professional-looking, with the kind of cautious expression that said she'd rather be anywhere else. "You're Ray Harlan, right? Sophia's husband?" "Ex-husband. Soon enough anyway." She sat down without being invited. "I'm Lena Grant. I work with Sophia. We used to be friends." "Used to be?" "Before I found out she'd been using me as her cover story for the past 6 months." Lena's jaw tightened. "Every time she told you she was at my place for girls' night or wine club, she was actually with Marcus. I didn't know until last week. She finally told me the truth because she needed me to testify that the affair wasn't serious." "And you're here because I'm not going to lie for her." Lena pulled a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. "These are emails and texts between Sophia and Marcus. She forwarded them to me months ago, gushing about her exciting new romance. I thought she was talking about you, some kind of rekindling thing. I saved them because I thought they were sweet. Now I realize what they actually were." I opened the folder. Dozens of printed emails, text message screenshots, even a few photos I hadn't seen before. "Why are you giving these to me?" Lena looked me dead in the eye. "Because my father had an affair when I was 12. My mother never found out the truth because everyone around her kept the secret. She died thinking he was faithful." Her voice wavered. "I won't be part of covering up someone else's lies. Sophia made her choices. She can live with the consequences." I reached across the table and shook her hand. "Thank you. Seriously. Don't thank me yet. There's something else you should know." Lena leaned closer. "Marcus isn't just involved with your wife. He's got another woman on the side, someone from his gym. Sophia doesn't know. I overheard him on the phone last week, making plans with her for the same weekend he told Sophia they were going away together." The irony was almost too perfect. Sophia had blown up our marriage for a man who was already cheating on her. "Can you prove that?" "I can give you her name. What you do with it is your business." Month 3 was when everything came to a head. The divorce mediation had stalled. Sophia was still clinging to the delusion that we could work things out, refusing to sign any agreement that gave me more than 50%. Her attorney kept pushing for delays, hoping I'd get tired and settle. Instead, I went on offense. Lena's information about Marcus's other woman, a fitness instructor named Danielle, led Carla down a rabbit hole that ended with surveillance photos of Marcus and Danielle checking into a bed and breakfast in Coeur d'Alene on the exact weekend he'd told Sophia he was visiting family. But that wasn't all Carla found. "I've got something else," she said over the phone late one night. "Something bigger." "I'm listening." "Ellis has been making cash withdrawals from an account your wife doesn't know about. Joint account she set up for household emergencies. He's been dipping into it for months. Spa treatments, fancy dinners, weekend trips. All for Danielle." My grip tightened on the phone. "He's been spending my money on his other girlfriend?" "Technically, Sophia's been spending your money on him, and he's been spending it on her. It's like a food chain of stupid decisions." Carla paused. "I've got the bank records. Your attorney's going to love this." "Send them over." I didn't give those records to my attorney, not right away. Instead, I made copies and I sat on them until the perfect moment. That moment came 2 weeks later. I ran into Marcus Ellis at the hardware store near his apartment complex. Not an accident. Carla had told me his schedule, and I'd positioned myself in the power tools aisle, waiting. He came around the corner with a basket full of picture hooks and decorative items, probably stuff for Danielle's place, I figured, and nearly dropped everything when he saw me. "Ray." His voice cracked on the single syllable. What are you doing here?" "Buying sandpaper." I held up the package as evidence. "What are you doing here, Marcus? Setting up house with your new girlfriend? The one from the gym? His face went gray. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. Danielle. Blonde, works at that spin studio on Division. You've been taking her to that bed and breakfast in Coeur d'Alene. Nice place, by the way. I've got photos. He took a step back, eyes darting around like he was looking for an escape route. Look, man, whatever's going on between you and Sophia, what's going on is you convinced my wife to throw away our marriage for a relationship that was never real. You played her. You played a lot of women, actually. Whitney Tate sends her regards. The name hit him like a slap. How do you know about Whitney? I know about all of them, Marcus. Every married woman you've seduced, every lie you've told, every life you've wrecked. I've got a file on you thick enough to use as a doorstop. And I've got friends at the Better Business Bureau who might be very interested to hear how the team leader at Westbrook Financial spends his time. You can't. That's not. I can, and I will. Unless you do exactly what I tell you. He swallowed hard. What do you want? I want you to disappear. Transfer to another branch, move to another city, I don't care. Just get out of Spokane and stay out. And when Sophia calls you, because she will call you, crying and confused and wondering what went wrong, you're going to tell her the truth, that you never loved her, that she was just another conquest, that it's over. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'm going to make sure every woman in your contact list knows exactly what kind of man you are. I'll send them the photos, the bank records, the whole ugly mess. Your reputation will be destroyed. Your career will be over. Is Sophia worth that to you? He stared at me for a long moment, calculation flickering behind his eyes. No, he said finally. She's not. I didn't think so. I walked away without looking back. 3 days later, Sophia called me in hysterics, saying Marcus had dumped her, said terrible things, told her she was too easy and not worth the trouble. I listened to her cry for about 30 seconds, then hung up. I didn't give those photos to my attorney. I gave them to Sophia. We met at a coffee shop. Not the one where I'd found her, a different one, neutral territory. She showed up looking hopeful, like maybe I'd had a change of heart. Thank you for meeting me, she said. Ray, I've been thinking a lot, and I really believe... I slid the envelope across the table. She opened it. I watched her face go from confusion to disbelief to devastation in about 4 seconds. This is from last weekend, I said. While you were telling Ellie that Marcus was the one, and you were finally going to be happy, he was 40 miles away with another woman. Want to know the really funny part? She's married too. Her husband doesn't know yet, but he will. Sophia's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the photos. This can't be right. He told me, he said whatever he needed to say to keep you on the hook. That's what guys like him do, Sophia. They tell you you're special, you're different, you're not like the others. And you believe it because you want to believe it. But you're not special to him. You're just another conquest. No. Tears were streaming down her face now. No, he loves me. He said he was going to leave his what? His wife? He's been divorced for 3 years. But he tells that story to every married woman he targets. Makes them think they're both trapped in unhappy marriages, both looking for an escape. It's a script, Sophia. You fell for a script. She stared at the photos like they were going to change if she looked hard enough. I threw away everything for him, she whispered. My marriage, my family. My daughter doesn't even want to talk to me anymore. Yeah, I said. You did. I stood up to leave. Ray, wait. She grabbed my hand, desperation in her eyes. Please. Please, I'll do anything. I'll sign whatever you want. I'll give you the house, the savings, everything. Just please. Help me get through this. I looked down at her hand on mine. The same hand that had rested on Marcus Ellis's in this same position, in a different coffee shop, while I was home thinking she loved me. You should have thought about that 6 months ago, I said. I walked out. Behind me, I heard her start to sob. Still didn't look back. The mediation session 2 weeks later was brutal. We sat across from each other at a long conference table, attorneys flanking us like seconds at a duel. Sophia looked like she'd aged 10 years since I'd shown her those photos. Dark circles under her eyes, cheekbones too sharp, the kind of hollowed-out look that comes from not eating or sleeping. Part of me, a very small part, buried deep, felt something that might have been pity. Then I remembered her diary. Kids are resilient. She'll understand eventually. The pity evaporated. Let's begin, the mediator said. Mrs. Harlan, I understand you've revised your position. Sophia's attorney cleared his throat. My client is prepared to accept an unequal division of assets. She's proposing 60-40 in favor of Mr. Harlan, with primary custody of their daughter to be determined by the court. Patricia leaned forward. That's not good enough. We have evidence of significant dissipation of marital assets, hotel stays, restaurant bills, gifts purchased for a third party. We're asking for 70-30 plus primary custody with supervised visitation for Mrs. Harlan. That's absurd, Sophia's attorney sputtered. There's no evidence my client is an unfit mother. There's evidence she prioritized an extramarital affair over her daughter's well-being, Patricia interrupted. Their daughter found explicit text messages on Mrs. Harlan's phone. She's currently in therapy dealing with the trauma. We have documentation. Sophia flinched like she'd been slapped. That's not fair. I never meant for Ellie to... What did you mean for Ellie to find out eventually? I asked. It was the first time I'd spoken directly to her since we sat down. When you left me for him? When you moved to some new apartment with your boyfriend while our daughter tried to figure out which weekend she was supposed to visit which parent? What was your plan, Sophia? I didn't have a plan, she said, her voice cracking. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was unhappy, Ray. I was so unhappy. And Marcus made me feel, don't. My voice was harder than I intended. Don't tell me what he made you feel. I don't care what he made you feel. I care about what you did. You lied to me for 6 months. You spent our money on your affair. You dragged our daughter into the middle of your mess. Those are facts. Your feelings don't change any of them. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Sophia's attorney spoke. We'll accept the 65-35 split, but we need to discuss custody terms. It took another 2 hours to hammer out the details. In the end, I got the house, 65% of our liquid assets, and primary custody of Ellie. Sophia would get supervised visitation every other weekend, pending a custody evaluation that we all knew would go my way. When it was over, Sophia tried to catch my eye as we were leaving. I walked past her without a glance. The custody evaluation happened 3 weeks later. Ellie, who'd just turned 15, met with a guardian ad litem, a court-appointed advocate who would interview her about her living preferences and report back to the judge. I wasn't allowed in the room, but Ellie told me about it afterward. She asked me a lot of questions about Mom, Ellie said. We were sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset paint the Spokane sky in shades of orange and pink. About the affair, about how I found out, about how I felt. What did you tell her? The truth. Ellie pulled her knees up to her chest. That I love Mom, but I don't trust her anymore. That every time she told me she was at work or with friends, I'm going to wonder if she's lying. That I need time to figure out how to be around her again. That's very mature of you. I also told her I want to live with you. She looked at me sideways. Not because I hate Mom. I don't hate her. I'm angry and sad. And I need to be somewhere that feels stable right now. With you. I put my arm around her shoulders, and she leaned into me. Whatever happens, I said, I'm proud of you. The way you've handled this, most adults couldn't have done it as well. I learned from watching you. She was quiet for a moment. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you still love her? Mom, I mean, even after everything? I thought about the question, really thought about it. I think there's a part of me that will always love who she used to be, I said finally. Or who I thought she was. But the woman who did this, I don't know her. And I don't think I want to. Ellie nodded slowly. That makes sense, she paused. I think I feel the same way. The week before the final hearing, Sophia made one last attempt. She showed up at the house, my house now, legally and emotionally, at 8 in the evening. I was in the garage, sanding down an old dresser I'd picked up at a yard sale, trying to keep my hands busy so my mind wouldn't wander to dark places. The motion sensor light clicked on, and there she was, standing in my driveway like a ghost from a life I was trying to forget. You shouldn't be here, I said, not looking up from my work. I know, I needed to see you. One more time, before everything becomes official. I set down the sandpaper. What do you want, Sophia? She stepped closer, and I could see she'd been crying. Again. At some point, her tears had stopped meaning anything to me. They were just another form of manipulation, another tool in her arsenal of excuses. I made a mistake, Ray, the biggest mistake of my life. I know that now. Marcus was nothing. Less than nothing. He used me and I was too stupid and too lonely to see it. You weren't lonely. You were bored. There's a difference. Maybe. But I want you to know, I never stopped loving you. Not really. I lost myself somewhere along the way. And by the time I realized what I'd done, it was too late. I looked at her then. Really looked at her. This woman I'd shared a bed with for 16 years, who'd given birth to my daughter, who'd promised to stand beside me until death parted us. You're right, I said. It is too late. Ray, no. You don't get to do this. You don't get to show up at my house crying and begging for forgiveness and expect me to forget everything you did. You chose him, Sophia. Every single day for 6 months, you woke up and chose him over me, over Ellie, over everything we built together. I know. And I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it. Sorry doesn't undo the nights I lay awake wondering what I did wrong. Sorry doesn't erase the look on our daughter's face when she found those texts. Sorry is just a word, and words don't mean anything when your actions have already told me exactly who you are. She was crying harder now, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Part of me, a small, petty part, was glad to see it. Let her feel a fraction of what she'd put me through. What do you want me to do? She asked. Tell me what to do, and I'll do it. Anything. I want you to leave. I want you to sign the papers tomorrow, accept the terms we agreed on, and start building whatever life you can salvage from this mess. I want you to be a good mother to Ellie, not the mother you were, the one who put her own happiness above her daughter's well-being, but a real mother, one who shows up, one who keeps her promises. I can do that. I can be that. Then prove it. Not to me, to her. Because frankly, Sophia, I don't care anymore. What you do with your life is your business. But Ellie still needs a mother, even if that mother isn't living under the same roof as her. Don't let her down the way you let me down. Sophia wiped her eyes, nodding slowly. Okay, I'll do better, I promise. Good. Now go. She turned and walked back to her car. At the door, she paused. Ray? For what it's worth, you were a good husband. Better than I deserved. Yeah, I said. I was. She drove away. I went back to sanding the dresser, and I didn't think about her again until the hearing. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. I'd seen enough legal dramas on TV to imagine something grand. High ceilings, wood paneling, a judge in flowing robes dispensing wisdom from on high. Instead, we got a cramped room with fluorescent lighting, plastic chairs, and a tired-looking judge who clearly had a dozen other cases to get through before lunch. Sophia sat on the other side of the aisle with her attorney. She was wearing a conservative gray suit, her hair pulled back, makeup carefully applied to hide the evidence of sleepless nights. She looked like a woman trying very hard to seem respectable. The hearing itself was almost anticlimactic. Patricia presented our case, the evidence of the affair, the dissipation of assets, the impact on Ellie. Sophia's attorney made half-hearted objections that the judge mostly overruled. Lena Grant testified via video link, reading from the emails Sophia had sent her, each one another nail in the coffin of our marriage. When it was Sophia's turn to speak, she stood up and faced the judge with trembling hands. "Your Honor, I know I made terrible mistakes. I'm not here to make excuses. I just want the court to know that I love my daughter, and I'll do whatever it takes to maintain a relationship with her. I accept whatever terms Mr. Harlan and his counsel deem appropriate. I just ask for the chance to be part of my daughter's life." The judge nodded, made some notes, and delivered the ruling. I got the house, 70% of assets, primary custody with Sophia receiving supervised visitation pending her completion of a co-parenting course. "Mrs. Harlan," the judge said, "I've seen a lot of cases like this. The ones who do well are the ones who stop making excuses and start doing the work. I hope you're one of them." "I will be, Your Honor. We'll see." And that was it. 16 years of marriage, dissolved in under 2 hours. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in late spring. Sophia had stopped fighting. After my revelation about Marcus's infidelity and his subsequent ghosting of her the moment she confronted him, she'd fallen apart completely. Her attorney filed for a default agreement. I got the house, 70% of the savings, and primary custody of Ellie with Sophia getting supervised visitation. The judge approved it without comment. Lena Grant had testified during the custody hearing, providing emails that showed Sophia discussing how to manage Ellie's eventual discovery of the affair. "Kids are resilient," one email read. "She'll be upset at first, but she'll come around once she sees how happy I am." The judge had not been impressed. Sophia moved to Seattle to stay with her sister. A few weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that she'd been passed over for a promotion at work. Apparently, someone had tipped off HR about her inappropriate relationship with a supervisor, and while they couldn't fire her, they sure weren't going to advance her career. Marcus Ellis fared even worse. Danielle's husband, a former Army guy with a temper and a lot of free time, had gotten his own set of surveillance photos, courtesy of an anonymous package left on his doorstep. The guy didn't do anything illegal, but he made Marcus's life extremely uncomfortable in ways that were difficult to prove but impossible to ignore. Within a month, Marcus had transferred to a different branch in Portland. I didn't feel sorry for any of them. Summer came to Spokane, and with it, a tentative new beginning. Ellie and I fell into a rhythm. Breakfast together before school, dinners on the back porch when the weather was nice, weekends spent working on the yard or hiking the trails along the Spokane River. She was doing better in therapy, still processing, still hurting, but starting to smile again. I'd started attending a support group for divorced dads. Every Wednesday night in the basement of a church downtown, a dozen men sharing their stories, their struggles, their slow progress towards something like normalcy. The first meeting was rough. I sat in the back, arms crossed, convinced I didn't belong there. These were men who'd been through nasty custody battles, who'd lost their homes and their savings and their sense of self. My situation wasn't that bad, I told myself. I had the house. I had Ellie. I was fine. Then a guy named Marcus, not Ellis, different guy, different life, started talking about the moment he realized his marriage was over. "I came home from work early one day," he said, his voice steady but his hands shaking around his coffee cup. "Thought I'd surprise her. Make dinner, open a bottle of wine. And I walked in on..." He trailed off, shook his head. You know what the worst part was? Not catching them. The worst part was realizing I'd known for months. All the late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the way she'd tense up whenever I touched her. I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. Something in my chest cracked open. I knew that feeling. The willful blindness, the desperate hope that if you just pretended hard enough, everything would be okay. I came back the next week, and the week after that. That's where I met Mia. She wasn't part of the group. She was the volunteer who made coffee and set out the folding chairs. Younger than me by about 8 years, with dark curly hair and a laugh that could fill a room. She worked part-time as a barista at a cafe near the mill, and she'd started volunteering after her own divorce 2 years ago. First time, she asked me after my third meeting, handing me a cup of what turned out to be the best coffee I'd had in months. Third, actually. Third time you've talked or third time you've shown up and stared at your shoes for an hour? I laughed despite myself. That obvious? Little bit. She smiled, and there was something knowing in it. Something that said she'd been through her own version of this and come out the other side. It gets easier, not better, necessarily. Just easier. Did it get easier for you? Eventually, after I stopped blaming myself. She sat down in the folding chair next to mine, settling in like she had nowhere else to be. My ex was a piece of work. Charming, funny, made me feel like the center of his universe, until I realized I was sharing that center with about 4 other women. 4? That I know of. Could be more. She shrugged. The point is, I spent the first year after the divorce convinced it was my fault, that I'd done something wrong, missed some sign, failed some test. Took me a long time to realize that broken people break things. It wasn't about me. Broken people break things, I repeated. I like that. Keep it, free of charge. She stood up, started gathering empty cups. Same time next week? Yeah, I said. Same time next week. It helps to help, she told me one night after the meeting, while we were stacking chairs. Sounds cheesy, but it's true. You spend enough time in your own head, you start going crazy. Better to be useful. I know what you mean, I said. I've been throwing myself into work, into being there for Ellie. Anything to avoid sitting alone with my thoughts. Mia nodded. The quiet's the hardest part. That's when all the questions come. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? Could I have stopped it? Did you find answers? I found better questions. She smiled. A real smile. Not the brittle kind that people plaster on to hide the cracks. Like, what do I want now? What kind of life do I want to build? Who do I want to be when this is over? I didn't have answers to those questions yet. But for the first time in months, I was interested in finding them. Fall arrived. Ellie started her sophomore year, made the varsity volleyball team, started talking about maybe wanting to be a marine biologist someday. The house felt less empty. The nights felt less long. Mia and I had started meeting for coffee once a week, then twice, then 3 times. Nothing serious, nothing rushed. Just 2 people who'd been through similar storms, finding shelter in each other's company. My ex sent me an email, she said one October morning, her hands wrapped around a ceramic mug. First contact in almost a year. Said he was reflecting on past mistakes and wondered if I'd be open to exploring reconciliation. What did you say? I told him he could explore a very specific part of his own anatomy. She grinned. I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist. I laughed. A real laugh. The kind I hadn't felt capable of for a long time. Sophia's been sending letters to Ellie, I said. Every week like clockwork. Apologizing, explaining, asking for another chance. How's Ellie handling it? Better than I would. She reads them, thinks about them, then puts them in a box in her closet. Says she's not ready to forgive yet, but she doesn't want to throw them away either, in case someday she is. Mia nodded slowly. Smart kid. Yeah, she is. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the morning traffic through the coffee shop window. Outside, the trees were turning gold and red. My friend wants to set me up with her cousin, Mia said eventually. Some accountant from Tacoma. She says he's very stable and has excellent retirement planning. Sounds thrilling, right? She rolled her eyes. I told her I wasn't interested in being set up. She asked why, and I said. She stopped, suddenly shy. Never mind. What? I said I'd already met someone. She looked at me, and there was something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Something hopeful. Someone who gets it. Who doesn't need everything explained. Who's been through the fire and come out the other side. I reached across the table and took her hand. Her fingers were warm from the coffee mug, and they fit perfectly between mine. I'm not ready for anything serious, I said carefully. I'm still putting pieces back together. And Ellie has to come first, always. I know. But I like this. I like spending time with you. I like who I am when we're together. Mia smiled. Then let's just keep doing this. No pressure, no expectations, just two people figuring it out as they go. Winter, Christmas lights on the houses, snow on the ground, Ellie home for break, and helping me string decorations on the evergreens in the backyard. Sophia had requested a supervised visit over the holidays. Her first in-person contact with Ellie since the divorce was finalized. The therapist thought it might be good for closure, and Ellie had reluctantly agreed. They met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory, with the therapist present. I waited in my truck across the street, watching through the window as mother and daughter sat across from each other. Two people who used to share a home now. Strangers navigating unfamiliar terrain. Ellie came out after an hour, her face unreadable. How'd it go? I asked as she climbed into the truck. Weird. She buckled her seatbelt, staring straight ahead. She kept apologizing, saying she'd made terrible mistakes, saying she was in therapy now, working on herself, trying to understand why she'd done what she did. Did you believe her? Ellie was quiet for a long moment. I think she believes it, she said finally. Whether that's the same thing, I don't know. But she's my mom. And even though I'm still angry, even though I don't know if I'll ever trust her again, I think I needed to see her, to know she's okay, to know she's trying. That's very mature of you. Dad, stop saying that, it's weird. I laughed. Fair enough. She turned to look at me, and there was something older in her eyes than there should have been. Something that had been forced to grow up too fast. I'm glad you're happy, she said. With Mia, I mean. You smile more now. You laugh at stuff that isn't even funny. It's kind of annoying, actually, but also kind of nice. Thanks, I think. Just don't mess it up, okay? She punched my arm lightly. One disaster per decade is enough. Spring again. A full year since the morning my world cracked open, Mia and I were sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ellie was inside, video chatting with friends, her laughter drifting through the open window. I got a package today, I said. No return address, just a manila envelope with some papers inside. From who? Lena Grant, the woman who gave me those emails last year. I pulled the papers from my pocket, unfolded them. It's a letter from Marcus Ellis's most recent ex, the one from Portland. Apparently, he tried the same thing with her that he tried with Sophia. Married woman, secret affair, promises of a future together. Only this one figured him out before she left her husband. What does the letter say? I read the relevant part aloud. I know you don't know me, but I felt like you deserved to know what happened. Marcus told me about Sophia, bragged about her actually. Said she was so desperate for attention that she would have done anything he asked. He called her his easiest target. I'm sorry for what you went through. No one deserves that. Mia was quiet for a moment. How does that make you feel? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Honestly, Not much anymore. I folded the letter and put it back in my pocket. A year ago, this would have sent me into a rage. 6 months ago, it would have made me sad. Now it's just information. A piece of a story that's already over. That's called moving on, Ray. Yeah, I guess it is. She leaned into me, her head on my shoulder, and we watched the last of the sunset fade into dusk. Summer, the 1-year anniversary of my divorce. I didn't mark the occasion with any kind of ceremony. No special dinner, no toast to my own survival. Instead, I did what I'd been doing every day for months. Got up, went to work, came home to my daughter, spent the evening with the woman I was falling for. Mia had started staying over a few nights a week. Ellie approved. She'd even started asking Mia for advice on school stuff, which felt like a bigger endorsement than any verbal declaration. "Your dad's making pancakes wrong again," Mia called from the kitchen one Saturday morning. "He's using too much batter." "They're supposed to be fluffy," I shouted back. "They're supposed to be edible." Ellie appeared in the doorway, shaking her head at both of us. "You two are ridiculous." "Your face is ridiculous," I said, which was my go-to response when I didn't have a better comeback. "Wow, Dad. Devastating wit." Mia laughed, and Ellie laughed, and I stood there in my kitchen, my home, the one I'd fought for, the one I'd built a new life in, and felt something I'd almost forgotten existed. Content. Just content. Nothing more complicated than that. The last time I saw Sophia was at Ellie's high school graduation. She'd driven up from Seattle, her first time back in Spokane since the divorce. We nodded at each other across the crowded auditorium, two people who'd once shared a life now reduced to polite strangers. Mia squeezed my hand. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm okay." The ceremony was long and hot, with too many speeches and not enough air conditioning. But when they called Ellie's name, Eleanor Grace Harlan, graduating with honors, and she walked across that stage with her head held high, none of that mattered. My daughter, my kid, she'd survived the worst year of her life and come out stronger. After the ceremony, while Ellie was taking photos with her friends, Sophia approached me. Mia tactfully excused herself, wandering off to talk to some of the other parents. "She looks happy," Sophia said. "She is." "You did a good job with her, Ray. Better than I could have." I didn't argue. There wasn't any point. "She told me about Mia," Sophia continued. "Says she's good for you." "She is." Sophia nodded slowly. For a moment, I thought she might cry, but she just took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. "I know I can never make up for what I did, but I want you to know, I'm sorry. Not just for the affair, for everything. For taking you for granted. For not seeing what I had until it was gone. For hurting Ellie. I know you're sorry, Sophia. Does that matter?" I looked at her. This woman I'd loved for 16 years, who I'd thought I'd grow old with, who turned out to be someone I never really knew. "It matters," I said. "It doesn't change anything. But it matters." She was quiet for a moment, watching Ellie laugh with her friends. Then she said, "I heard Marcus got fired from that Portland job. Apparently he tried the same thing there and it didn't work out so well." I heard. "You had something to do with that, didn't you?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. "Good," she said quietly. "He deserved it." Ellie came bounding over, mortarboard askew, diploma in hand. "Dad, Mom, did you see? I did it." "We saw, sweetheart," Sophia said. "We're so proud of you." Ellie looked between us, her parents, no longer together, standing side by side for the first time in years. "This is weird," she announced, "but also kind of nice. Can we get ice cream now?" "Absolutely," I said. Mia rejoined us, slipping her hand into mine. Ellie introduced her to Sophia with the casual confidence of a teenager who'd long since made peace with her new normal. "Mom, this is Mia. She makes Dad smile. It's kind of gross, but also whatever. Mia laughed. Nice to meet you. Ellie talks about you sometimes. Sophia looked surprised. She does? Yeah, she says you're working on yourself, that you're trying to be better. Something passed across Sophia's face. Gratitude, maybe. Or hope. I am trying. That's all any of us can do, Mia said. We walked out together, the four of us, into the bright June afternoon. It should have been awkward. It should have been tense. Instead, it felt like closure. We got ice cream at a place downtown, Ellie's choice. Sophia sat across from me and Mia, making small talk about Seattle, about her new apartment, about the therapy she'd been doing. She seemed smaller somehow, quieter, like the sharp edges had been worn down by hard lessons. When the check came, I paid for everyone. Sophia protested weakly, but I waved her off. Consider it a graduation present, I said, for all of us. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Ellie hugged her mother goodbye, a real hug, not the stiff, obligatory kind she'd been giving for the past 2 years. Come visit sometime, okay? Ellie said. Properly, I mean, not just for holidays. Sophia's eyes glistened. I'd like that. She walked to her car without looking back. Mia, Ellie, and I headed the other way, toward the truck, toward home. You good? Ellie asked me. Yeah, kid, I'm good. She grinned. Good, because I expect a car for my birthday. Nice try. Worth a shot. Mia laughed, and Ellie laughed, and I stood there in the parking lot with my daughter and the woman who'd helped me remember what it felt like to be happy. The past was the past. You couldn't change it. You couldn't undo the damage or erase the scars. But you could move forward. You could build something new on the wreckage of what came before. And that's exactly what I intended to do.